In a world where quarters ruled and pixels reigned supreme, there emerged a titan of the arcade era, a company that soared to the heavens only to, well, plummet back to earth faster than a Goomba and Mario. I'm Professor Retro, and this, my fellow Pixel Warriors, is the rise and fall of SNK. Let's start with the rise. SNK burst into the scene in the 80s with the arcade hits that made jaws drop and quarters vanish faster than you can say, Hadouken! They were like the Avengers of the gaming world, assembling a roster of characters that could kick pixelated butt like nobody's business. Founded in 1973 by Ikiichi Kawasaki and named Shin Nihon Kikau as a stock market company, Ikiichi then reorganized his company in 1978. However, soon after he noticed the rise in popularity and profits of the coin-operated arcade market, he soon switched gears to start making and selling his own coin-op arcade machines. SNK in the US was soon located in Sunnyvale, California to start developing and selling their own games in 1981, and enter in the new head of the US office, Jim Rowe, and soon the first of the arcade games they put out was a game called Osmo War in 1979, followed by Safari Rally in 1980, and then the most notable, Vanguard in 1981. Soon the official name was changed to SNK Corporation in 1986 due to the fact that the Japanese Ministry of Justice didn't exactly approve of using SNK as a trademark. In November the same year, SNK Corporation of America was born and set up shop in Sunnyvale, California. And in 1988, the main Japanese office was moved to Sachiura, Osaka. During all this, SNK shifted to development of arcade games and later porting them to early home consoles. Some of the most notable ones this time were Mad Crasher in 1984, Alpha Mission in 1985, Athena in 1986, which was soon ported to the NES 1 year later in 1987, Akari Warriors in 1986 as well, which was ported to the Atari 2600, Atari 78, Commodore 64, Amiga, Amstrad, CPC, Apple II, ZX Spectrum, and the NES. Meanwhile, back in Japan, SNK was affected by the great video game crash of 1983, and the only company that was still going strong was that juggernaut Nintendo, who decided to name SNK as one of their third-party developers for both the Famicom and the NES. And soon, SNK opened up a new division, an office in Torrance, California named SNK Home Entertainment, which mainly dealt with the distribution of games for the home consoles. At this time, Jim Rowe decided to leave SNK to found a new company called Trade West. This caused Paul Jacobs to become the new head of the US office, and he went on to help develop SNK's very own home console, the Neo Geo. With the rise in popularity of SNK's NES ports, they soon dabbled into making their own games just for the NES, starting with Baseball Stars and Chrysalis, both in 1989. During all this time, more home consoles were being released, such as the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis. This was the start of the great system wars of the 90s between Nintendo and Sega, with the infamous slogan, Sega does when Nintendo don't. However, SNK wanted to avoid being part of it altogether, and decided to refocus their efforts back into the arcade market, which left two new developers to make third-party games for the console. SNK then decided to start developing SNK equipment and then move on to licensing their own handheld games for the handheld giant Tiger Electronics. During this, most arcade machines were designed just to have one game only, requiring a tech to come in and swap out the entire internals of the cabinet in order to switch out games. SNK decided to fix that issue by creating a multi-system cabinet called the Neo Geo MVS. MVS is short for Multi-Video System. These machines had multiple games in a single cabinet and used a cartridge-based system to swap out games, and these soon made their first US appearance in arcades in 1990. These were massive success, as it greatly decreased the time a tech had to add new games since all they had to do was just swap out a cartridge for a new game, as well as reduce the price for a new cartridge down to $500, which was half the price of a new cabinet, and also reduced the floor space in arcades. SNK wanted to branch out the NVS to the home console market, without limiting the CPU and memory that most home consoles were forced to do at the time. So, in 1990, SNK released the Neo Geo family, and soon a home version of the NVS called the Neo Geo Advanced Entertainment System, or the Neo Geo AES, or the AES. However, at the start, this console was only limited for rent or use in a hotel setting. But as the AES was gaining popularity, SNK then decided to make a version that can be sold in stores for the home market, and several new games for it came out. What made the AES better than other home consoles at the time was that it had much better graphics and sound. It first debuted at a whopping $500 at the time with 2 joysticks and one of 2 launch titles, either Baseball Stars Professional or NAB 1975. However, the price was increased to $649 when it hit the States, with the launch title being Magician Lord. However, if you wanted a slightly cheaper price, you could find one for $399, but it only came with 1 joystick and no launch title. And if you wanted other games for the system, they would cost you a whopping $200 each. Ouch. Soon, SNK started to release more consoles such as the Neo Geo CD, and the handhelds, the Neo Geo Pocket and the Pocket Color. Sadly, however, like most of the companies I have featured so far, SNK fell to the slow death of bankruptcy as the arcade market slowly declined due to the recent surge in home consoles and handhelds. As SNK tried to regroup to make a comeback, which really never happened, SNK tried to come back with games made for other consoles, many of which really never took off. With the financial loss, SNK was soon acquired by Azure, a company who mainly made the popular pachinko machines. Most of them were themed after SNK titles, and SNK never really had much success in the video game market after that. Capcom wanted to jump in on the fighting game craze and created Capcom vs. SNK, a game that combined characters from both companies fighting each other, which became a massive success. However, since Capcom published the game, most of the profits went to them, instead of SNK. SNK tried to fight back by creating 2 games, SNK vs. Capcom, the Match of the Millennium, and SNK vs. Capcom Card Fighter Clash for the Neo Geo Pocket. Both games only sold about 50,000 copies. Since these were not really a success, SNK soon had to close the US, Canadian, and European offices in 2000, followed by selling the distribution rights of the American MVS system and the Neo Photo system to outside companies. With a massive debt of 38 billion yen, or $250,127,700 US, SNK gave up voluntary reconstruction in April of 2001, and then applied for the civil rehabilitation, which is effectively declaring bankruptcy, which caused SNK to sell the distribution rights to other companies, and the Neo Geo family was soon discontinued. However, it was briefly revived 11 years later with the Neo Geo X. But just when you thought SNK was down for the count, they rose from the ashes like a phoenix, only to stumble once again. Their financial woes led to bankruptcy in the early 2000s, and fans were left wondering if they'd ever see a new King of Fighter game again. But fear not, fellow gamers, just when you thought all hope was lost, SNK made a comeback that even Rocky Balboa would envy. They embraced the digital age, releasing classic titles on modern platforms, and even gave us a brand spanking new King of Fighters game. And now SNK is back in the game, proving that you can't keep a good company down. So here's to SNK, the phoenix of the gaming world, rising from the ashes 1 quarter at a time. And with that, I want to thank you for joining me on this wild ride through gaming history. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more nostalgic trips down memory lane. Until next time, folks, keep gaming, keep laughing, and remember to always have your console plugged in. I'm Professor Retro saying peace out and stay frosty.